Welcome to my channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Her mother married her sterile alien daughter to a human. She was shocked to later see her daughter pregnant. Under the silver dusk of Eridani's twin moons, the city rose in glittering towers, glass and crystal humming, with faint energy, as though the structures themselves were alive. Lyra stood on the balcony of her mother's hall, ears tilted forward, catching the murmurs of the city's currents. She always listened for what wasn't there. Laughter of children, the rhythmic heartbeat of family life echoing through alien homes. She would never give that sound to her people. That absence clung to her like frost. Behind her, the great matriarch entered, her steps soft but commanding, robes whispering as they brushed against the crystalline floor. She carried in her hand a sphere of light, a council token glowing faintly blue. When she spoke, her voice carried both gravity and something gentler, almost pity. "Daughter, I have decided what is best for you." Lyra turned slowly, her long ears twitching. That sentence never ends well. Her mother did not flinch. "There's a human soldier. Captain Marcus Hale. He is unattached." She searched for words as though choosing stones from a riverbed. "You will be joined." Lyra blinked. "Joined? As in bonded? As in, mother, are you trying to smuggle humor into politics? Because that was almost funny." "This is not humor," the matriarch said, though a tiny crease in her lips betrayed that even she found the situation faintly absurd. "He is alone. You are alone. You will not make life together, but you may make companionship." Lyra pressed her palm against her forehead. "So your great plan is to marry me off to a fragile, loud, clumsy human, because at least then I'll have someone to argue with at supper?" "Precisely," her mother said, with such calm conviction that Lyra nearly laughed. Marcus arrived 3 days later, escorted into the hall by guards who looked at him the way one might look at a misplaced kitchen utensil, confused about how it ended up in a royal chamber. He was tall by human standards, broad-shouldered, his uniform scorched and patched from wars far from here. His boots clicked awkwardly on the crystalline floor, echoing far too loudly. He attempted a bow, nearly losing balance, and muttered, "Your floor is too shiny. Osha would hate this." The matriarch stared as though he had just invoked an alien deity. Lyra smothered a laugh. Introductions were made, though introduction was generous. Marcus mispronounced half the Eridani titles, calling one honored elder your noodle instead of your Nul Dal, and by the time he reached Lyra, she was biting her lip hard enough to leave marks. When the hall emptied and only the three of them remained, Marcus cleared his throat. "So arranged marriage. Haven't done that before. Usually I buy someone dinner first." Lyra tilted her head, ears flicking curiously. "That is your mating ritual? Purchase of food." "Sometimes movie tickets too," he said. "Depends how serious you want to get." Her mother's face remained stone, but her ears angled just slightly, betraying that she was listening very closely to every word. That night, they dined together in Lyra's chambers. Alien delicacies shimmered on plates, petalfish that glowed faintly when disturbed, bread spun from crystalline moss that cracked like glass when broken. Marcus approached the meal like a soldier facing an unknown battlefield. He tapped a glowing fish with his fork. It blinked. He set the fork down slowly. "Yeah, see, back home dinner doesn't usually stare back." Lyra laughed, genuinely this time, the sound resonant like wind through hollow crystal. "You are amusing, human. You make fear sound like wit." "It's a survival tactic," he said, pushing the plate forward. "If I joke about dying, maybe I won't notice what happens." She studied him across the table, eyes reflective pools of violet light. For all his awkwardness, he carried a weight in his posture, a man who had seen too many endings. She recognized it, because it mirrored her own. Later, walking through the balcony gardens, Marcus pointed at the glowing sky fruit hanging from the vines. "Those edible?" "No," she replied. He reached out anyway. The vine recoiled, hissing like steam. He yanked his hand back. "Okay, noted. Not edible. Definitely not a grape." Her laugh came again, and with it, something eased in her chest. For the first time, she did not feel like a vessel emptied of purpose. The matriarch watched from the shadows, unseen, her heart heavy and uncertain. She had expected indifference, perhaps tolerance, but already she saw the dangerous spark of something else, a shared humor that melted grief. She folded her hands, whispering to herself, "This is mercy, nothing more." Above, the twin moons drifted closer, casting silver across the balcony. Marcus leaned on the railing, glancing sideways at Lyra. "So, do I get any points for not being completely offensive yet?" She smirked. "Barely." "Good enough," he said. "I've built entire careers on barely." Her ears quivered as laughter slipped free once more, and for the first time in cycles, the sound of something like hope touched the night air. The first weeks of their union unfolded like a badly rehearsed play, half comedy, half disaster. Lyra's neighbors stared from their balconies, whispering whenever Marcus emerged from her chambers, his boots clanging too loudly against the delicate crystal streets. He waved once, hoping for civility, and was met with horrified silence. Later, Lyra told him that waving was the Eridani gesture for challenging someone to a duel. The next day, 3 elders approached him armed with ceremonial staffs. "I was just being friendly," Marcus explained. "Hands up and surrender. Back home this means hi. Not I'll smash your head in." The elders withdrew, grumbling. Lyra laughed so hard she bent at the waist, her long ears trembling like sails in wind. "Perhaps you should keep your hands in your pockets at all times. Less chance of interstellar war." Inside their shared quarters, things were little better. Marcus had been given a sleeping chamber shaped like a crystalline cocoon, its surface humming faintly with bioelectric charge. The first night he lay down, the cocoon sealed around him with a hiss. He screamed, pounded the sides, and was released into the hall, gasping for breath. Lyra found him on the floor. "It is supposed to adjust to your body temperature," she said calmly, helping him up. "Adjust." Marcus wheezed. "It was trying to cook me medium rare." She shook her head, though her lips curved in amusement. "Humans, always convinced the universe wants to eat you." Their meals were no easier. The Eridani ate slowly, savoring flavors that resonated like music in their throats. Marcus chewed fast, impatient, leaving Lyra staring as though he were dismantling a sacred symphony. At one meal, he smothered a dish in powdered spice he'd brought from his rations. The resulting glow nearly blinded them both. "You poisoned the food," Lyra gasped, ears flicking violently. "That's paprika," Marcus said, coughing through the haze. "Not poison." The moss bread ignited in blue flame. He smothered it with a jug of water, leaving a soggy mess. The matriarch heard of the incident and summoned Lyra the next day. "Your husband burned sacred food with human chemicals. Do you understand the insult this is to our traditions?" Lyra bowed slightly, though her voice carried restrained laughter. "Mother, he insults everything without trying. Perhaps that is his tradition." Marcus, summoned into the hall to defend himself, added, "In my defense, the bread attacked me first." The elders muttered, confused, and the matriarch dismissed him with a sigh. Yet despite the chaos, small threads of companionship began to weave themselves. Marcus repaired things. Broken light conduits, faulty air vents, fractured stair railings. He fixed them all with tools from his soldier's kit, and when those failed, with duct tape. The Eridani had never seen duct tape. They gathered in hushed circles, whispering as Marcus wrapped shimmering pipes in gray bands. To them it looked like primitive magic. One elder approached him afterward. "This human artifact, does it bind even broken hearts?" Marcus grinned. "Only if you've got enough rolls." Word spread quickly that the human could heal things. Neighbors who once avoided him now knocked at their door, carrying broken devices, malfunctioning instruments, even a cracked family heirloom that was actually just a chair. Marcus mended them all with patience and jokes. The chair, held together by tape and stubbornness, became so revered that the neighbors began calling it the seat of hail. Lyra teased him endlessly. "They will make a temple for you. Worship of the duct tape god." "Better temple than prison," Marcus replied. "I'll take it." At night, when the city's towers glowed in quiet harmony, Lyra and Marcus would walk through the suspended bridges that crossed the violet seas. He asked about the constellations etched in the sky. She told him their names, Ancient stories of warriors with ears so long they touched the stars. Marcus tried to match the myths with Earth's constellations, comparing one sacred Eridani figure to something that looks like a toaster. She nearly pushed him off the bridge, but laughed until her eyes gleamed. Slowly, the weight in her chest lightened. The silence of her barren life dulled under his chatter, his fumbling, his ridiculous gestures. She realized she was no longer measured by what she could not give. She was simply Lyra, and he was simply Marcus, and together they stumbled forward, carving out a rhythm neither had expected. The matriarch, observing from her distant chambers, told herself it was enough. Her daughter was smiling again. That was the mercy she had intended, nothing more. And yet, deep in the lines of her face, unease stirred like a shadow she could not name. Lyra woke one morning with a strange certainty that something inside her had shifted. Not the usual aches of restless sleep, not the echo of dreams, but something deeper, like her body had been reprogrammed overnight. She pressed her hand against her stomach and felt warmth pulsing there, steady and undeniable. At breakfast, Marcus noticed, "You're staring at your plate like it insulted you." "It is not the plate," she said quietly. "It is me." "Okay," he replied, chewing carefully. "Do you need me to duel the plate? Because, fair warning, I'm only good against furniture." She rolled her eyes, but didn't laugh. Her fingers lingered against her abdomen, and Marcus's humor dimmed. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. "What's wrong?" "I feel different," she admitted. "Alive in a way I have not felt since ever." The next days proved her right. Her appetite grew until Marcus joked that she was secretly storing food in another dimension. Her mood shifted violently. One evening she threw a cushion at his head for pronouncing an Eridani proverb with the wrong intonation, and the next morning she apologized by baking him a crystalline moss pie that nearly cracked his teeth. When she collapsed one evening in the balcony garden, Marcus caught her before she hit the floor. She whispered through tears, "Something moves inside me." He froze, his soldier's mind trying to calculate impossible odds. "Moves as in you're saying, 'No, that can't wake it.'" Lyra clutched his arm, eyes wide. "We are sterile. We do not make life. It cannot be." But it was. The healers came, cloaked in humming robes, carrying instruments that shimmered with bioluminescent runes. They scanned her, spoke in hushed voices, recalibrated their devices, and scanned again. At last, one healer lifted her long ears and said, in tones that echoed across the chamber, "She carries life." The matriarch was summoned immediately. She entered the chamber, her face composed but her steps sharp as blades. She looked once at her daughter, then at Marcus, and her voice trembled beneath its usual steel. "Explain." Marcus lifted his hands. "With all due respect, ma'am, I'm not sure biology usually comes with an instruction manual." "This is impossible," one healer declared. "Our kind has no seed. Our daughters are born few, our womb sealed by design of nature." Marcus muttered, "Guess nature didn't read the fine print." The matriarch turned on him. "You did this." "Well, I didn't exactly do it alone," he said before his brain caught up. Lyra covered her face, ears glowing crimson. Despite the absurdity, fear hung heavy. News spread faster than crystal light through the city. Crowds gathered, whispering that the sterile daughter carried life. Some called it miracle. Others hissed that it was contamination. At markets, strangers glanced at Marcus as though he carried a weapon too dangerous to name. Children followed him at a distance, whispering "Take God," and giggling until their parents dragged them away. Within the chamber, the matriarch faced her daughter with a heart divided. "How can this be? How can you carry life when all the stars have denied us for centuries?" Lyra's voice trembled. "Mother, I do not know. But it is real." She guided her mother's hand to rest gently against her stomach. Beneath their touch, something stirred, small, fragile, but alive. The matriarch's composure cracked. She withdrew her hand as though burned. "This should not exist." "It does," Lyra whispered, "and it is mine." Marcus, ever unable to resist, added, "Ours. Unless you want to foot the whole diaper bill." Lyra smacked his shoulder. but her smile broke through the tears. The healers demanded study. The council demanded answers. The people demanded clarity. The matriarch demanded silence, though her silence shook like glass under strain. Lyra and Marcus, caught in the center, could do nothing but cling to each other in the storm. At night, Marcus tried to lighten her fear. "Hey, maybe the kid will have your ears and my sense of direction. That way it can hear danger from a mile away, but still get lost on the way to the kitchen." Lyra lay against him, laughter and tears mingling. "Or perhaps it will inherit your talent for insults disguised as compliments." "Best inheritance I can give," he said softly. When sleep finally took them, the matriarch stood alone in her private chamber, gazing across the violet sea. She had given her daughter to a human out of mercy, convinced it would mean companionship without consequence. Now the impossible grew beneath her child's heart. She whispered into the still air, "What have I done?" And far away, in the crystalline depths of the city, rumors took root. Rumors that the hybrid child would not be a miracle, but a disruption strong enough to fracture the balance of two worlds. The council chamber rang with voices that shook the crystalline walls, each elder competing to outshout the others. Lyra sat at the center with Marcus at her side, her hands folded protectively over her growing belly. The counselors circled like predators, their ears twitching with agitation. "This child is a violation of natural law," one cried, "a breach of the code that governs our kind." "It is contamination," another declared. "If we allow it, what next? Will humans rewrite our very blood?" Marcus leaned toward Lyra and muttered, "I'm starting to feel like I'm on trial for inventing gravity." She hushed him, but her lips curved despite the tension. The matriarch rose, silencing the chamber with the sheer force of her presence. "This is my daughter. She carries life where none should be. Whatever this child is, it is not contamination. It is hope." Gasps rippled through the chamber. One elder sneered, "Hope is a word the desperate use when they cannot explain reality." Marcus leaned forward. "Well, reality says we've got a baby on the way. You want to run the tests? Be my guest. Just don't ask me to read the instruction manual. I'm still trying to figure out the coffee machine in our quarters." The chamber erupted again, half with outrage, half with bewilderment at his casual tone. The matriarch raised her voice once more, her authority hammering down like thunder. "Enough. This debate will not end tonight. Until then, the child stays under my protection." When they returned home, Marcus collapsed onto the cocoon bed and groaned. That was worse than boot camp. At least in boot camp nobody argued about whether you should exist. "You made them laugh," Lyra said softly. "I wasn't trying to," he admitted. "But if I can keep them from turning you into a political science project, I'll keep telling bad jokes." Life in the city grew stranger. Crowds followed them at a distance, curious but fearful. Some left offerings outside their door, flowers of light, strings of humming beads, even an ancient carving of two species holding hands. Others spat at the ground as they passed. Marcus responded with exaggerated bows, earning more confusion than anger. Lyra grew restless. Her body shifted daily, her ears glowing faintly at night as though resonating with the new life inside her. The healers said it was an anomaly, her body adapting to carry hybrid blood. Marcus said it was alien pregnancy glow. She said it made her look like a lantern. One evening, Marcus tried building a cradle from spare crystal rods he'd scavenged. It collapsed instantly when he sneezed. He swore, picked up the shards, and muttered, "Maybe duct tape can hold it." Lyra laughed until tears welled. "You will raise our child in a coffin of gray strips." "Strongest stuff in the galaxy," he replied proudly. "Kid'll be safer than a battleship." Despite the jokes, fear remained. Rumors spread that the child would destabilize the Eridani, born with powers beyond control. Others whispered of prophecy, an ancient tale of union between stars that would create a bridge to survival. The matriarch summoned them often, torn between her role as leader and mother. In private, she confessed her dread. "Your child will change everything. Our laws, our identity, perhaps even our survival." Lyra held her mother's hand. "Would you rather I had remained barren? Would you rather silence than this? The matriarch closed her eyes. I would rather certainty, and all I have is you. As weeks passed, Lyra and Marcus leaned into humor to survive the scrutiny. When a delegation of elders arrived unannounced to study her, Marcus met them at the door, wearing his soldier's helmet and holding a ladle like a weapon. Sorry, no tours today. The miracle factory is closed. The elders retreated in outrage. Lyra scolded him, but her laughter betrayed her pride. The storm built until the council called for a final assembly. Word spread across the city. Thousands gathered outside, their faces turned toward the great hall. Inside, the elders demanded resolution. The matriarch stood tall before them all, her voice clear and unyielding. We have lived in silence for generations, cursed by empty wombs and dwindling bloodlines. Now my daughter carries what should not be possible. You call it contamination. I call it salvation. The chamber froze. Lyra's hand tightened around Marcus's. He whispered, Your mom's scarier than any general I've ever met. She whispered back, That is why she leads. The council did not cheer, nor did they condemn. They sat in silence, the weight of choice pressing on them like gravity. Outside, the people waited, uncertain whether to fear the future or embrace it. And within her belly, the child stirred again, a tiny heartbeat echoing against the hush of the chamber, louder than any decree. The birth came not with serenity, but with chaos. The healers swarmed the chamber, instruments glowing, voices chanting ancient stabilizing tones. The cocoon bed sealed and unsealed at random, reacting badly to Marcus's presence as he paced with wild eyes, muttering that he had survived planetary sieges, but not alien midwives. Lyra gripped his hand with strength that made him yelp. You are supposed to be a soldier, she hissed through clenched teeth. Soldiers don't usually fight their wives, he wheezed. And besides, I think you're winning. The child arrived with a cry that resonated through the chamber like a bell. The sound made the crystal walls hum. The healers dropped to their knees, and Marcus faint on the floor. He came to moments later, blinking. Did I miss anything? Lyra held the newborn in trembling arms. Tiny ears curved like her own, not as long, but unmistakably Eridani. The eyes opened, deep violet with flecks of human green. The fusion of two worlds blinked at the gathered crowd and wailed again, a noise that shook the chamber's very foundation. The matriarch stepped forward slowly. For the first time in her life, her authority faltered. She reached out a hand, touched the child's cheek, and whispered, So fragile, and yet strong. Marcus sat up, rubbing his head. Strong enough to knock me out with a cry. I'm proud already. The counselors who had gathered leaned in, torn between awe and terror. One whispered, This is no ordinary child. It carries resonance, our bloodline amplified. Another muttered, Or corrupted. Marcus rose, steadying himself. Listen, I don't care what you call it, miracle, accident, cosmic glitch. But that kid is ours. And if you think you're going to take it away, you're going to have to deal with one very cranky mother, one very protective grandma, and one human dad with duct tape. And trust me, duct tape fixes everything. A ripple of uneasy laughter moved through the chamber. The matriarch turned to the council. You see fear. I see survival. For generations we have dwindled, our future uncertain. Now life blooms in the barren. Are we so proud we would cast away the only hope offered to us? Silence followed. The weight of her words hung heavier than law. In the weeks that followed, everything changed. The city no longer looked at Lyra with pity, but with wonder. Crowds gathered outside to hear the child's cries, which made the towers resonate in harmonies unseen before. Some said the resonance was a sign that the child was tuning the city itself to a new future. Marcus took to carrying the baby in a sling across his chest, wandering markets while pretending not to notice the adoration and fear around him. When strangers asked the child's name, he puffed up proudly. Hail IRA, means hope in stereo, or something close enough. Lyra teased him endlessly for mangling their language, but she never corrected him. The matriarch softened, too. Once she had seen her daughter as broken, a vessel of sorrow. Now she looked upon her with pride that glimmered like starlight. She admitted one night, I gave you to him out of mercy. I thought companionship would ease the wound. I did not expect you would heal me instead. Lyra, rocking the child, answered gently. I was never broken, mother. I was only waiting. And Marcus, listening, added, sometimes waiting is the hardest battle. But hey, I'm glad I won this one. The council never declared a final verdict. They didn't need to. The people themselves carried the decision forward. Where there had been whispers of disgrace, now there was cautious reverence. Where there had been laughter at Marcus's clumsiness, now there was laughter shared, softer and warmer. The story of the sterile daughter and the human spread beyond the city, into the outer colonies, and across the stars, where human soldiers still patrolled. It became less a scandal and more a legend, how a human and an Eridani made the impossible not only possible, but alive. On the balcony where it had begun, under the twin moons, Lyra stood with Marcus beside her and the child in her arms. She looked out across the violet sea, the towers gleaming, the people stirring with new voices. Her ears tilted forward, listening, not for absence, not for silence, but for the sound of something new. The child cooed, tiny hands reaching, and the city seemed to sing in answer. Marcus grinned at her, weary but joyful. Well, looks like we started an interstellar parenting experiment. No refunds, no returns. Lyra laughed, holding their child close. Then we will simply have to succeed. And the matriarch, standing behind them, allowed herself a rare smile, knowing her people's future had begun not with council decrees or prophecies, but with her daughter's laughter, a soldier's stubbornness, and the cry of a child who should not have been possible yet was. The end.